What is up? Sick Man is back with his partner in crime, House Lasku. House Lasku wasn't here for the trade deadline show, so he thought, okay, let me jump on real quick the next day and speak about. Well, we're going to speak about what the trade implications have for the East and the Western Conference, and we're going to list off the top three contenders. Isn't that right, Ed?
Yeah. Do you have your three in mind?
Yeah.
Like, are they?
So what we
you're pretty certain of them?
Yeah, I've written down my notes. I think it's the tougher conference, but I think let's go through with the East. So how this will work is I will start with three, then Ed will align, then he'll go two, and then I will end on one, and then we change it around for the West. So the team that I had in the third place in my, I guess, the sixth man Eastern Conference power rankings is the 76ers. They are third for me. I'm going to list off like why they're third. They currently have the MVP right now. Embiid's playing the best basketball of his career. He has managed to carry the team without a max player spot, and they've been able to compete. They've beat the Grizzlies. I remember them beating the Blazers early in the season when they had a depleted roster and the COVID hit. So they've managed to stay afloat, and they're in with a shout for the number one seed, but they've slipped back a couple of games. And they've also, the most important thing is the James Harden trade. They're trading to win right now. They've replaced role players for a superstar, and I have to reward that in some way. So that's the reason I put Philly at third. I'm not going to talk about negatives. I'm just going to try and be positive for now. Who have you got, Ed?
So one quick question actually on your Philly point was my question was going to be, one of the things that Philly fans have been crying about, one of the downfalls for this year in general has been the lack of depth, if I'm not mistaken. Surely this means, the trade means that Philly has got less depth.
Yes and no. The reason being is because we do have buyout options available to replace Drummond. Seth, even though he turned up in the playoffs in a big way and he will be missed, I do believe that we've replaced him in a sense with Harden, and Maxi's also pretty decent at catch and shoot. He's not at the same level as Seth Curry, but I don't think it will be Seth will be missed that much. He's going to do well for Brooklyn. He's going to get a lot of open shots that he can obviously make at a really exceptional clip. But yeah, I'm not too worried. Then the depth, the most important thing for the Sixers depth, don't play all bench lineups. Surely Doc is not going to sit Tobias, Embiid, Harden, and Maxey all at the same time. He can't make that mistake. He made that mistake last year. So yeah, that's my point on that.
Fair. Again, just worried about the bench unit, but cool. We'll see what happens with that.
Who's your number three?
So
who's your Allen Iverson?
I'm going to say Nets were not going to be in my top three. I just think there's just so many uncertainty going on. So I'm just going to remove that completely. And I was picking between two other teams for that third spot. And the team that didn't make it is probably the safer bet, which is probably the Miami Heat, who have had that playoff experience, are one of the better teams in the East that could go all the way. They've got Jimmy, who always shows out. They've got Bam, who continues to improve, and they've got Tyler Hero, who has a resurgence on the bench. So that's great for them. But the team I've gone for third is the Chicago Bulls. I really want the Chicago Bulls to go far this year, and I know they have struggled. As Bray said yesterday, their three best defensive players have all been out, which obviously any team, if you were to remove their three best defensive players, you assume they're going to take a step back in one way or another. I love what they can do from the offensive perspective, how DeMar has turned into such a leader since his stint with the Spurs, where I had the Spurs last year in sixth man, and I said, he's putting up some assist numbers, like he's doing some bits over here, and I feel so pleased for him that's translated to the Bulls. So maybe it's just a fun pick, and I just want to see Vooch get a chip as well, but Bulls are third.
Do you think that, just a quick question on the Bulls, do you think that the Bulls lost at the trade deadline because they didn't make a move?
I heard you guys talking about it. as you said, there's still the buyout market. They can still get some nice pieces on for their bench unit. Their starting lineup has already been set. They are doing really well again without Caruso and Ball. Like, of course, that will still improve their team. I get the whole thing where you are at this point where your window is now open and you want to maximize your window, especially with the age of DeMar. You don't know how long he'll be at this elite level for, but I'm not as down as Bray was on the Bulls deadline presence.
All right, let's go number 2. Who's your number 2? Ed, you're leading this.
My number 2 is Philly. Again, all the reasons you said. Joel Embiid, maybe apart from the guy who we're going to talk about in number 1 on the East, is probably one of the most dominant players in the league at the moment. Matchup nightmare. One of the big weaknesses for the Bulls is going to be in terms of matchup weakness, will be how the Bulls would have to deal with Embiid if it comes to that. And they don't have a lot of good options. I know that from first-time experience. I'm saying first-time, I didn't defend him, but watching Fuchs go against Embiid all the time didn't do me with a lot of positive thoughts. So yeah, Sixers are my second pick.
Okay, cool. We spoke about Philly, but my second pick is the Bucks. The reason being is the first reason I have for the Bucks, and we'll get onto it later because I think you've just revealed, even though I didn't want any spoilers, they're the champs, so they have earned that respect. I know they're not where they want to be in the standings, but they already have to be in a top 3 automatically just because of that. Unless obviously they had an awful season, they weren't in the running. Giannis, we saw what he did against the Lakers. He's continuing to learn and be a sponge and develop his game. It's incredible to watch a player just transform and keep growing his game. It's just incredible. I think it's sort of the blueprint for a star player reaching their potential. And then my last point is when the big 3, Drew, Middleton, and Giannis on the court, they have a plus 13.5 net rating, so they're dominating. I'm not worried about them at all. They have been a bit wish-washy this season.
You are worried. You like to sort of hate on the Bucks. You didn't pick them last year in the draft. You picked Denver over them.
I picked them number 2. I picked them ahead of Philly.
You didn't put them number 1. If you're going to talk about Nets, okay, we'll talk about the Nets coming up later. If that is your number 1, no spoiler. I don't know if there's a spoiler or not. They are my number 1.
You should transition. So
exactly, I was just going to say it was a good transition from your number 2 to my number 1. As you said, they've won the chip. They have that clout, and they did take the foot off the gas in the regular season this year. But Giannis has not taken his foot off the gas at all. And you know that this will be the Giannis in the playoffs. All those concerns, everyone was saying that until he proves in the playoffs, we can't consider him to be that guy. He is now that guy, and no one can chat to him. And Middleton has had a down year. As you know, I'm higher on Middleton than most other fans are. I think he's such a good player. He might not be the most eye-pleasing, but when I was following the Bucks last year as one of my teams, he was doing super well, and I love what he brought to them. And everyone hates to play against Drew Holiday, I think, and they just got Serge Ibaka as well out of nowhere.
Great pickup.
Yeah, out of nowhere, I was like, oh, wow, like this 14 3-team trade, and they got Serge Ibaka. Fair play to them. So, and it probably replaces PJ Tucker in that role. A bigger, probably not as aggressive as PJ Tucker was on the defense end, but a bigger body and can spread the floor. Again, what PJ Tucker did. But they're the number 1 pick.
So who do you think is my number 1 pick?
Oh, you're going to throw a curveball? Is it not going to be the Nets? And have you picked the Heat? It could only be one of those 2. Let's say you've thrown a curveball because you would not put Ben Simmons number 1. Let's say you put the Heat.
You know me too well. I've not put Brooklyn in my top 3. There is too many question marks going on with this team.
Exactly.
I mean, their second best player is potentially playing half the games. Somehow Ben Simmons' mental illness has disappeared and he's on the road trip. I mean, what's up with that? That's surely not allowed. And KD's out. They're on a 9-game losing streak as well. No team has won the championship with a losing streak that's more than 6 games. Insane stat. But okay, let's talk about my number 1, Miami Heat. First point, Heat culture. Pat Riley, been there, done it. Eric Spo, he's been there and done it. Jimmy Butler has almost done it, but he led that team to the finals, which is a complete shock. They know how to deal with big pressure moments. They had the Heat tools. They won 2 chips. It was pretty successful. Then you look at their resume. This season, 13 clutch wins, 14 road wins, which is the second highest, and 15 wins against over 500 teams, which is first. Philly doesn't have those type of numbers. And then the last point is stifling defense as well, Ed. 14.8 points inside of 5 feet, which is the fewest in the league allowed. So not only are they able to protect the paint, but they close out on 3-point shooters as well. I think it's all down to coaching. They have a championship coach with Eric Spo, and they're also out of nowhere. I know it's close. They're the number 1 seed. Nobody's been talking about them. They've just gone along their business quietly. B Money's going to be happy.
Definitely will be. Although he is quite unbearable, so I don't want the Heat to be good. On the coaching point, I was going to say your top 3 in the East have got 2 of the top 15 coaches in NBA history. So of course it's going to be a great list.
I mean, we know what we think about Doc Rivers. You heard it in the thing. The pressure is on Doc. He needs to be able to make this work because this is a very good situation to have. It's a good problem to have 2 stars. Do I think he'll make it work? I'm not hopeful.
Final thing on the Nets. I need to get some Kenny Smith hate out of me again. I hate is such a strong word. I need to get some Kenny Smith energy off me. Go on. You're going to say something before?
No. What's he done? Kenny Smith done?
No, it's nothing really. Just something I disagreed with him. So I think they were on Inside the NBA. They were talking a bit about the Lakers and how Kenny was saying you can't judge the Lakers until AD's back. And I was thinking, I don't agree with that point because part of the formula for the Lakers, a big part of the formula is injuries. And you have to consider the Lakers without AD because that seems like a very tenable thing that could happen. The Lakers without AD. And that's why I thought they brought Russell Westbrook as AD insurance when if it's just LeBron and everyone else, that's so hard because you don't know what's going to happen with AD. That's why they brought Russ in. So the reason I say all that is this related to the Nets point, which is you have no idea what you're going to get with the Nets. No idea what's happening with Ben Simmons. No idea what's happening with Kyrie Irving. There's all these like stuff now how it'll be more beneficial for the Nets to play all their games away from home, which is but that and the reason I brought all that together is to say there's just so much I have no idea what's happening with the Nets. No idea. That's why they weren't in my top 3
either. Yeah, I think that move was really good for them. I think they didn't lose the trade at all. Like, if anything, maybe they won, but it's more long term for them. You know, they have half a season to get everything in order, and a lot of things have to align. It's going to be tough to turn it around. You know, it really is, and same for Philly. But I think there's more of an obstacle for the Nets.